to chew on. The Lunchroom on RCI, Monday to Friday, 12:45 to 2 p.m. The Lunchroom, informative, enlightening, provocative, engaging. The Lunchroom on RCI, food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm open to law and I'm sitting in for Calix George Jr. to the end of the month. And of course, we are also live on our official Facebook page, which is Radio Caribbean International. So, as always, I remind people that I am open to discussion. I'm open to a change of mind. Nonetheless, I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe that or think that anything is absolute. And I certainly think that solutions are good anytime they solve a problem. On that note, therefore, I start off by giving you some of the activities, some of the famous things that happened in history on this day. On this day in 1633, the Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei arrived in Rome for trial before the Inquisition for professing the belief that Earth revolved around the sun. Very, very significant because at that time it showed the discord between science and the church, specifically the Roman Catholic Church. But I imagine that at some point in time, we will discuss that even more. On this date in 1689, the Parliament of England adopted the Bill of Rights, establishing the right of Parliament and placing limits on the Crown. That would have had significant impact on us eventually, because as you would know, or you may know, at one time, the Crown was supreme, and I mean absolutely supreme. Now it has got to the point where the representative for the for the Crown in St. Lucia, Governor General, has limited authority. Yes, the Crown may still have to approve things, but that is just an act of I would say of show, that not really having any teeth as such. But of course, that is still a law. That certain things must be approved by the Governor General. In 1782, the French occupied St. Kitts and in the Leeward Islands at the expense of England. Of course, we are familiar with a lot of the give and take and give. In St. Lucia, we're proud that and we keep repeating that we changed hands 14 times between the French and the British. Some people don't think that was such a good thing after all, but again, all of these things are ideas that over time we can always discuss. In 1948, the West Indian batsman Andy Gantom scored 112 runs for West Indies in his, listen to this, in his only Test cricket innings. So notwithstanding that Andy Gantom scored 112 in a Test match, in his only Test match innings, he was actually dropped for the next match. I'm certain that many of the cricketing boss would know that why that happened. I will stick with cricket. And in 1980, New Zealand beat the West Indies by 1 wicket in a Test match. in Dunedin. Notably, the prolific batsman Richard did not play in that match because he had a bad back. But nonetheless, West Indies was the top team at the time. But they managed to, well, not they managed. New Zealand con- was sufficiently determined that they actually beat the West Indies by 1 wicket, and they needed a long 10th wicket stand to do that. In 1993, Merlin Otley ran the world record 200 meters indoor in 21.8 seconds, 0.87 seconds, sorry. Come back to cricket, and this time it was a revenge of sorts. In 1995, the West Indies beat New Zealand by an innings and 332 runs, with Courtney Watts taking 13 wickets for 55. Just for the record, and just to share information, that was not the worst beating that one team put on another. England won the test match by one, by 1 innings and 500 and something runs. I think in that match, there were about three people who scored centuries, one scored a triple century, and so on. So that was what. So the West Indies actually beat New Zealand in 1995, as I said, by an innings and 302 runs. In 2020, a fire in a U.S.-run orphanage in Haiti killed 15 children near Port-au-Prince. That was a real disaster with so many implications and so on. So these were the significant things from my perspective that happened on this day in history. We now go to our sponsors, and we shall now get the dish of the day.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A plus, with all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasware and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mine, nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jugos Delays, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
For the dish of the day, we want to talk about the need for consistent trading between us and other territories around us. As it is, we have a lot of talent in St. Lucia. We have people with significant skills in St. Lucia. And in much the same way that St. Lucians can benefit because of the closeness to a territory, to Martinique. I know some time ago there was a lot of fun made because somebody, the Prime Minister, said that we are, in fact, very close to the European Union. But that was just people, like I said, having fun. Because in actual fact, if one were to do appropriate research, one would find, for example, that official documentation will indicate that the border of France, in fact, goes beyond just the contiguous part of France. And indeed, where France has departments and the like, that is considered to be part of France. And likewise, for example, the border of France and England is not determined by the mass that consists of Great Britain or Britain and so on, but rather it is determined by a small territory that is adjoining France itself. So people who suggest that it was ludicrous, hilarious, and so on to make such a statement are obviously not well informed. However, to go back to the point, we in St. Lucia have an excellent opportunity not only to benefit from some of the facilities that's available in Martinique, for example, and we are very much aware of how our health services is augmented by what is available in Martinique. But we have to recognize and remember that our skill sets go beyond just the usual. That our skill sets involve so much more, and that we can have significant benefit from being in close proximity to the European Union via Martinique, of course. And so, as we continue to expand our trade, as we can continue to include different commodities in our trading arrangements, we need to remember that. So, our dish of the day, which is sponsored by Tiles Plus, we make the point that we have to continue to look for ways to improve and increase our trade with various nations.
This has been The Daily Dish.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. This all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got gasway and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Jugozi Lanes, and Flag Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Welcome back to the Lunchroom. Urban Dolores sitting in for Calix George Jr. This afternoon, I have with me in the studio Shazzy. And you know, people say when you have acquired a certain level of fame, you're only called by one name, Shazzy. You don't need to put the other parts of his name, because Shazzy is brand. Shazzy, one Shazzy in St. Lucia. And I'm absolutely elated that Shazzy has agreed to join me in studio today, because Shazzy has such a wealth of experience as it relates to finer culture, diplomacy. He is well known for his views on various subjects. And so welcome, Shazzy, to the lunchroom for today.
Well, thank you, Owen, for inviting me. And well, you put it right, and the fact that it's something we will explore along the way. The fact that there's so much that we could do with our relationship between Martinique and St. Lucia. But to say it also is that I, as the cultural attaché to the Consul General's office in Martinique, we don't only deal with Martinique. We have Martinique, Guadeloupe, and French Guyana, which is Cayenne. That is part of our jurisdiction, that we do a number of events with, a number of business transactions and exchanges and so on.
So, as it relates to the being a cultural attaché, what does that really involve?
Well, it involves a lot in the sense that, well, I would say it was really something that the wisdom of the former Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony, understood that the role that culture plays within the French Empire. Most people who visit France would know the Louvre, right? The Louvre Museum, that is very famous and millions of people visit yearly. So he thought that through culture, we would be able to even get our relationship between Martinique and St. Lucia and the other islands that I mentioned, Guadeloupe and Cayenne, even more solidified through our cultural connections. And because when people come to your shores, they may come for example, for jazz or for other junior Creole and other stuff like that. They explore and they discover a lot more about you. They may come for a show, but they discover how you live. They discover certain misconceptions also that they may have of you, of your country and of your people. And some of them also actually would look at St. Lucia as and look at opportunities that they themselves could create in St. Lucia, whether by owning a business, whether that or something of that nature. Actually, I will be joined actually by a businessman by the name of Sulikali, and in his research found that we have what we call the blue maho tree, and the blue maho tree is a tree that grows massive enough, and St. Lucia planted a lot of that tree because of our soil erosion. And it so happens that the present minister of agriculture was at one point heading forestry before his retirement. So he actually knew where all those trees were planted. So we did a delegation to St. Lucia some time ago, about over a year ago, actually. And he was able to direct us to where those trees were, because the flower of that tree also have a medicinal properties. And so the project is twofold. Use the tree to produce furniture. The gentleman I speak of would design his furniture and have a joiner produce the furniture for him here and export it to St. Lucia. And also
export it to Martinique.
Export it to Martinique, yes. Mm-hmm. So he would be producing stuff that to the needs of his folks in Martinique, because you have a certain demographics of people in Martinique who likes local stuff. They like stuff done with their wood and works, and I mean some people gravitate towards new stuff, and when I say new, I mean the modern stuff, and some people love the what they call antique furnitures and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to be catering to that market that he has already explored and knows that is there. He knows that market is there, so he's going to explore it. So we have those trees, I'm saying, that we planted to keep our soil firm. So cutting the trees would not disrupt that either, because the trees will grow back, right? It'll take a little time to grow back, but the main focus of the tree, which was to keep the soil, to prevent soil erosion, will still continue. That would not in any way create any situation where the soil will be harmed in any way. You know what I'm saying? So I'll just give an example of in coming here, not for the reason of doing business. This gentleman came here, discovered we had the blue maho tree, discovered we had a lot of it. You know what I'm saying? So now he's coming back now to create a business entity out of coming here for culture. In fact, he came from Junior Creole because he's a very cultural guy. He builds tambours, he plays tambours, he dances ballet too, and all of that. He's very well known in Martinique. He's an icon. He's an icon in Martinique. Anybody that knows anything about culture in Martinique will mention the name Suli Kali. He even had his own radio station, his own radio show, and all of that. He sells his tambours in Japan, in Canada, all over the world.
Okay. Just sort of a note here. My understanding is that you can see and find quite a bit of the Bloomer Hole on the Badlil, going up the Badlil.
You know stuff. That's the first place the minister sent us. The first place he sent us.
And in
Yes.
actual fact, one way of
Yes,
identifying the plant is that its flower
right,
is
almost
very
like
similar
hibiscus.
Yeah.
That's the first impression I had when I saw it. It looks very like a hibiscus, but even nicer than I find.
It's
I
a
find
former red,
right.
in a sense,
I find it's a more beautiful.
I can understand why you'd have
flower than.
I can understand why you'd have the affinity towards deeper red, nicer
right.
red.
Too. But it's a really nice flower. It caught my attention when I first saw it.
Yes.
I didn't even know that existed in the first place. You know
Yeah. So
because they were a lot of it were planted inland and so on. He also sent us to Babono.
Okay.
Right, all the way to the Granans, all those areas. Yeah, there's a lot of it planted there. So we actually saw the flowers that were falling and everything. So we saw the trees. So we, so he was able to. So as I said, because it was twofold. There's the medicinal part of the project, and there's the using the wood to do the furniture as well.
Yes.
But I also want to piggyback on something that you said to sort of reinforce the point that you were making about Martinique and Guadeloupe and so on being part of France and being and the fact that France is part of the European Union, automatically Martinique is part of the European Union as well, because the French Empire boasts a lot of the biodiversity, right? But when you look at France itself has very little biodiversity. See, but that biodiversity that it boasts of really comes from the territories that they have, like French Guyana. You know what I'm saying? Because French Guyana is as bigger than France. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, because the size, a lot of land with very little people. But you have rivers, you have all the kind of what the Amazon is also part of the Amazon. Is almost part of all of that, those big rivers and all the different animal life and all plant life and all that you're going to get in those areas. So France boasts of their biodiversity, but it's not really in France.
Yes. So a lot of it is like, as you said,
in the territories that they control.
Yes.
Right. So that is where the biodiversity is. Yeah. So it shows also the importance to them of those territories as well.
But you made a point about the museum, and I found it interesting because the point you made was that that when you go to France, you go to the Louvre and so on, there's a museum. Talking about, and I'm going to tie it to what you just said about France boasting about its biodiversity, because it takes into account the biodiversity of territories that it is not stuck with. It's not part of France per se.
Yes. Well, they're called overseas territories.
Overseas territories. Right. Now, in terms of the museum, to what extent does the museum reflect things that were actually taken, and I'm using the word taking deliberately as opposed to being ordered and whatever, from some of those territories as well? In other words, would the Louvre have artifacts and so that actually came from?
No. What it doesn't have artifacts. But what you have people like Gauguin, Paul Gauguin. Paul Gauguin lived in Martinique and created a lot of his work in Martinique. And those paintings are now in the Louvre.
Okay, so essentially, then, if, for example, Martinique was not a part of France, such paintings would more likely be in something within Martinique itself.
Right. So it would not. France would not have claims to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the fact that Martinique was a French territory.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So and Gauguin was French. You know what I'm saying? Paul Gauguin was French. The fact that he came, and I remember probably he would not have even chose Martinique to come to if Martinique was not a French territory as well. You have all of those dynamics as well.
Yes.
So, but the fact that he lived in a place called Kaube. which is near Saint-Pierre, which where the volcano. That is where I live in Martinique. Where my family lives also in Saint-Pierre, in Cow Bay, and that's where he lived. And the area is a landmark, as you would imagine, where he lived and where he painted and so on. And as I said,
very much like how the workout house is
of that nature, yes.
Yeah.
And but not only for him, but you had Picasso, you had all those guys work that did their work in France. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those artists, they are exposed at the Louvre. You know, you had Renoir. You had all of these other artists, you know what I'm saying? So, and another thing that we do not take into consideration when we talk about tourism, right? We like to speak about, and we do well in tourism, regionally and so on. But when it talk about the world stage, I mean, we don't even do 1% of what France does in tourism. You know what I'm saying?
There's a phrase which goes that you can't die until you see Paris.
Right. So France is a big tourism destination. You have the Eiffel, the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And people visit that. Millions of people visit that every year. You know what I'm saying? So we don't think of those countries as tourism-oriented countries, but that they are. Even New York, you know what I'm saying? We don't look at New York as a tourism, even when we travel, St. Lucian travel, they say, oh, they go and shop and stuff like that. But we go in there as tourists. Even though you live you stay at your friend's home or your mother home or your cousin's home or your sister's home, whatever.
Yes.
But really you're going as a tourist. You know what I'm saying? That's how the Americans see you. You come in there as a tourist. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You know? So you are counted as a tourist. So when they counted the tourism figures, it's in the millions, because those people come there as tourists.
Let me ask you another question, because I see you as a cultural icon, do you think that there would be any benefit in having some sort of museum that would sort of represent CARICOM? Because I wouldn't.
That's a must. That's a must.
You think it's a must?
It's a must. Actually, I am in discussion, and I've made some of the artifacts available to. I would not mention names yet.
Yeah.
To someone that works closely with the government. I was approached by a Frenchman who is married to an African lady. When I say Frenchman, European, guy who's married to a woman from Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire, and he has an enormous collection. He's a doctor, actually.
Medical doctor?
He's a doctor. He's doctor. And he has done some work here with the Tapion and so on. He has worked here before. And he's desirous of working out something with the government so we could use some of these artifacts. We're talking about African artifacts, right? To either it's on borrow or whatever, I mean, the details have to be worked out. But he has them, he has purchased them and so on, with the history behind them and everything. He gave me a whole thumb drive with everything so that, we could decipher it and so on, to actually open a museum here in St. Lucia. You see, because now, because of social media, of the world opening up, the world getting closer, right? Because of social media and so on, we are starting to understand how African we are. Let us say that. Let's put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Because, in growing up, they always try to make us run away from our African roots. You know what I'm saying? And now we understand even the Creole language that we speak, the vernacular, the syntaxes of our Creole language is all African. You know what I'm saying? So we have to, and the only way we could really understand that is to understand where we came from and the culture of the people we came from. For example, I was invited in December. I couldn't make it for other reasons. I was invited in Benin, because Benin has the biggest voodoo ceremony every year, right? Because this is where the culture came from. This is where voodoo came from. And voodoo was sold to us as a superstitious kind of event, but it's really a religion. That's all it is.
And an evil event at that.
And an evil event, right. It was sold to us as something evil and something people used to do malefic whatever to people and so on.
Yes,
and
yes,
it's
yes.
far from the reality of voodoo.
Yesterday I was making a point that colonial people who are colonized are always moved or trained or educated, for want of a better word, to think that whatever the colonialists brought in was superior to what we already had. And I before we go to break for the weather, I just want to make an admission, a confession in a sense, that my favorite kind of movie are the movies that come from Nigeria in particular. Because, I mean, when I look at a movie that comes from Nigeria, I can associate so easily with all the things that's happening. You see cassava plants, you see dashi, you see mango, right?
Aki.
You see aki, you see garages by the side of the road.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So all of those things are entirely consistent. You see fowls and the fowls you see in the yard, the dogs in the yard. Everything is entirely consistent with what we do. They have akara, they have fufu, all of the things are exactly like what we do. So very, very interesting discussion as I expected, Shazzy. So we're going to have a break now for the weather, and we'll come back and continue the discussion.
Island style, we got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island style, we got the time that will make you happy. Island style, oh yeah, we make your dream come alive. In Island style, we have tiles and princess pieces and ground. Everything you need is on the outside. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality rice, service rice. It's all an Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Cass Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewfort Highway. Call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, tile and bath. When you think tile, think Island Style. This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
And that's all, of course, the 1.1 is now time for your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tellenbach. The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours, the winds will be blowing from between the east and east-northeast near 26 miles per hour or 43 kilometers per hour with occasional gusts. The weather fair and windy, occasionally becoming cloudy with some scattered showers. And there is an advisory in there which reads small craft operators are advised to exercise caution due to brisk winds and rough seas. The forecast for the Lesser Antilles, partly cloudy and breezy, occasionally becoming cloudy with scattered showers. And the weather summary, moderate to brisk easterly winds and rough seas are expected to continue across the Eastern Caribbean region during the next few days. Patches of low-level clouds drifting along the windflow will cause scattered showers over the Lesser Antilles during the forecast period. And this was your weather report as of 12 noon today, presented by Island Style Tellenbach.
This has been RCI's Weather News. For more information, call the Weather Hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Island Style, yeah. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, we'll have to make the right choice. Island Style, we got the time that will make you happy. Island Style, oh yeah, we make your dream come alive in Island Style. We have tiles and princess pieces and ground. Everything you you need to sort your house out. For the best price and the latest style, take a little drive down to Island Style Car. We got the time to make you go. We got the time to make you say, quality price, service choice. It's all at Island Style.
Visit us at our showrooms in Bellarosa, Rodney Bay, on the John Compton Highway, Ash Street, and behind Ruby's Gas Station on the Library Viewport Highway. Call us on 450-452 or 453-TILE. Island Style, Tile and Bath. When you think tile, think Island Style.
Welcome back. You're in the lunchroom with Obandolo sitting in for Calix George Jr. and we have Shazzy with us in the studio. And as we all know, Shazzy has been involved in fashion, has been involved in diplomacy, and in fact, he currently works as a cultural attaché to France, in a sense, because that's, you know. One of the significant things that encompass, we have a call on the line, so we'll take it and then we'll come back to you, sir. Hello, good afternoon. We seem to have lost the call, but
hello.
Yeah,
hello?
you could always try again. The call is there. Oh, the call is there. Oh, sorry. Hello.
Yes, hello. Yes. Good afternoon. Yes, I heard the discussion about the utilization of Blue Maho in St. Lucia. And
I didn't get that.
I said I heard the discussion about the utilization of Blue Maho in St. Lucia.
Yes.
And possibly exporting it to Martinique or products from it. And as the concern I had is whether it will be done in a sustainable manner so that we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Like decades ago, we cut down our gomia trees and sold them to Martinique to make dugout canoes. And that had some impacts on our rainforest. So how do we ensure that in utilizing the Blue Maho in St. Lucia, that is done sustainably?
Very, very, very good point, caller. Very good point. And as you said, caller, what we I'm sure, well, not me because I don't work in the Ministry of Agriculture, but what the Ministry of Agriculture has done is learned from the lessons of the gommier trees. So they now, I'm sure they're going to put certain measures in place to cut at a certain rate. It won't be just indiscriminate cutting of the trees. They would look at how many trees they have in what areas, because it has been planted in many, many areas. It's all around St. Lucia. So it is not like just giving the investor the electric saw and send him on cut trees. You know what I'm saying? It is going to be done in a managed form. You know that, as I said. If there are 200 trees in one area, they say, okay, we're going to cut 50 only, or we're going to cut 100 only, or something like that. And you go to the other area now and cut, you know, and then there will be replanting done. And I think there's going to be regrowth too of those trees. So, as I said earlier, the primary reason for planting the trees, which was to soil, because of soil erosion, that it will not harm the soil erosion in any way whatsoever. Because the roots are what you need to hold the soil to make sure there's no soil erosion, and the roots will still be there holding the soil solidly.
You okay with that, caller? Oh, yeah, okay. But we need, and I think the caller has such a genuine concern.
That's a very good point.
Because and let me say to you that the gomia was not the only resource that was exploited incorrectly by people from Martinique. Let's look at it. Two other things. Well, in this case, it would have been the fishing industry. So that I know, because I grew up in Grizzly, that the lobster and the labi, these two products in particular, they were decimated by French fisher people, French fishers. Now, I am not in any way suggesting that they had any bad intentions. We of course need to understand that when we do things initially, we may not be as au courant, as savvy, as knowledgeable as we are when we do it again. So having learned from the experience of the Roumier and also, as I said, specifically the lobster and labi, because the French guys came with methods of fishing that the people, the locals didn't have, and were able to do that. So yes, so that's a genuine concern, an important concern that we need to look at. We were talking as well, and let me just give the number to those persons who are out there who are wishing to call us. So the number to call is 452-3046. So we look forward to receiving your call on any of the issues that I raised, that what we raised either today or yesterday. But we were making the point, Shazi, that an important component of our culture is our health and how we deal with our health. Yeah, because there are some countries where they have one form of health system, and others we have different forms of health systems. And how do you see our health system and our access to health being influenced by our closeness to Martinique?
Very, very, very important. Martinique plays a very crucial role in helping St. Lucia as far as the health sector is concerned. In fact, in fact, last week, we had a delegation of the PS in the Ministry of Health and a technical person from the Ministry of Health who spent a week in Martinique because they came to receive a number of gifts, equipment, and so on that was gifted by the University Hospital of Martinique, which is Laminau Hospital. And you must travel with someone technical to make sure that the equipment that they're giving us is relevant. You know what I'm saying? Because they may give us something that we already have or something that might be outdated. You never know. You know what I'm saying? So I know they always travel.
Or something that we might have a lot of difficulty
maintaining and all of that too, right? So the technical, somebody who heads the technical team at the Ministry of Health was there with the PS, and I know that the shipment, I think it's been shipped this week. So we have a number of new equipment that would be shipped to St. Lucia, that I'm pretty sure that if the technical advisor advised that we should receive it, you know what I'm saying? Then he knows that that we need it. We need it in St. Lucia, and that it'll make a difference for the healthcare of our people. Now, I also want to say something that might seem political, but sometimes you have to go on the political side sometimes to address things and make people understand the reality of what we're dealing with. Laminau, from day one, under former Prime Minister Dr. Kenny Anthony, had initiated an agreement in which they would have assisted our opening of the OKU hospital and assist us also in managing the hospital as well. Now, we know that the Central Labour Party lost the election in 2016, right? They lost the election in 2016. New regime came in, and what they did, they initiated a contract with the Cayman Island Group, right? Not Cayman Island, sorry, the Cayman Group,
Mm-hmm.
And costing taxpayers $25 million. And this is money that was paid by this government when they came into office. When this government came out, Philip J. Pierre had to find that $25 million because it's a contractual agreement. Whether it was done by the last government or whatever, they have to pay. So they paid that money, and money that could have been used, right, in many ways, for the many health issues that we're having. And people are saying, okay, no this, no that, no that. But if you wasted $25 million, whereas we could have gotten that same help right, in managing the hospital for free, right? And today, we see Laminau now is still making a gift to us of all of that equipment. You know what I'm saying? So there would have been an ongoing relationship between Laminau and our OKU, right, which had to be renegotiated by the new minister of health. You know, he had to come up to Martinique, right, and renegotiate again all over, you know, to have what is happening there right now happening. When I'm saying that if the former government had simply continued what is already in place for OKU and Laminau Hospital, we would have received a number of equipment within that space of time, and we would not have spent that $25 million that we paid another entity to run the hospital.
I'm not, if you can't answer this question, just say, I know that I can't answer that one. But the same thing that you see that was inappropriate, in that mechanisms were in place for the Laminau Hospital to help us with running of OKEU. When the Labour Party when the UWP party came in, they squashed it. Some people are saying that that the Labour Party has done a similar thing with St. Jude, in that the government of the UWP government started the hospital, the new structure, and when the peer administration came in, they simply dropped that and went to a different arrangement. What say you?
Well, totally different scenario. You had a situation where the incoming government at the time, which was the United Workers' Party government, had a report that was done by the same people that they contracted to do the hospital. I remember the Shunter King report, right? That said that what was there could be salvaged, and what was there could be used to continue the construction of the hospital. They went and built a completely different structure, spending $100 million on what is dubbed the box, right? And here is a building without any kind of utilities, and you know those things are done through the walls and so on, right? So no water, no plumbing, no electrical wiring, no separation, right? Then you have gas lines also, right? Then you also have a situation, and I remember I saw the Prime Minister asking a question, and he was saying the so-called new modern hospital, where would the kitchen be? You know, so there was no kitchen in that particular so-called modern hospital, because you know why, my brother? Because about half of the buildings that they considered to be old had to be commissioned for the so-called modern building that they built to work. For it to operate, they had to use those buildings. You know? So it could not constitute a hospital on its own. So all the modern thing they're talking about, you know what I'm saying? There would be no laundry, there would be no this, no that. You know what I'm saying? All those things had to come from the existing buildings that are already started. You know? So a reason to be, why didn't you just continue what has already started? Which would have cost taxpayers less money and would have been finished by now.
So, well, you opened the political box, so political door. Sorry, I saw about saying the word box because that's what. So you've opened a political door. So give our listeners your perspective on the political situations in Russia, because we know that you're very deep in your politics, you're a philosopher, and
without a doubt. I mean, some people will say I'm biased, right?
No, but you're biased.
I am biased, right?
Yeah, just stay there and be biased.
But I'll be right.
The thing about it is that I think we have it's more of a problem when people say that they're not biased. By virtue of your experiences, by virtue of where you come
and where
from,
you stand politically,
by virtue of who you interact with, you're biased. So start off with being biased.
Right.
And when somebody else is biased, just recognize that they're biased and don't get vexed with them because they're biased.
But also, you have to deal with the facts. And the facts are, when we look at the facts, that the fact that you have a very good economy, right? You have one of the lowest unemployment rates in decades. We have a situation where, for example, I had a discussion recently, premature discussion, just preliminary discussions with the Minister of Education, right? And this has to do with the TVET schools. And most St. Lucians, I think most do. I mean, only a few people that are trying to distract don't understand the importance of those TVET schools. Because here you have, we have been talking about training our young people so that they could meet the market demand, right? The market demand of plumbers, masons, electrical workers, and so on, right? Especially in the construction industry, right? But I will go one step further. I had discussions in Martinique with a number of builders, contractors, some I know personally, and others who have called me, right? Looking for skilled workers in that field. And you know why, Urban? They love the way St. Lucians work. St. Lucians are hard-working people, and somehow they work harder when they're abroad. Eh? Somehow, I don't know why, but they work harder when they're abroad, and they have that reputation. And contractors in Martinique will tell you they rather employed St. Lucians and Haitians because of the fact that they work hard. I will give you a little joke, but a serious one. A friend of mine, a guy came to Martinique seeking a job, as a laborer, because he wasn't a skilled contractor, or he was a mason or anything of that nature. So the guy gave him a laborer's work to do, right? So the guy had four masons, right? Bricking up and bricking and so on, right? Doing the cement, right? So the work of that St. Lucian was to carry cement for them. One that was working at the bottom, he had to wheelbarrow cement up a hill, and then he had to bring cement down for another set that was doing the cement. After the first week of work, the masons went to the boss. Them, là où je me suis garçon. Nous c'est pas quand même no pause avant nous tourner la tête de nous Simon là. So they figured, well, in between time they will not have cement, they will relax,
yes.
until cement come again.
Yeah.
But if let's say every time they turn, they see they have cement for them to plaster.
So they run out of cement.
So they never run short of cement. So that to show you how hard the St. Lucian guy was working.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a serious joke. And the guy was telling me that he was trying to show me how hard those guys are working. You know what I'm saying? So here we are, have an opportunity now, not only to develop those youngsters for the St. Lucian market, but also for next door in Martinique. With the TVET schools.
There's always been, for me, and you would have known that I was in education, I've always felt that the notion that of the brain drain, right, has always, for me, been something that was a misnomer, in a sense that I thought that if we take the model of the bananas, people say that if we train people and we train them and they leave, that we are going to suffer from a brain drain. I say no. I say no because at some point in time, the balance will be such that even once you prepare sufficient people, okay, there will be enough to send abroad and to keep here, because those who are remaining here can now be compensated in a way that is consistent with them staying here. I didn't say that well. Because there are certain benefits that you accrue when you go overseas. Right. For example, as you said, the guy who goes overseas, he works harder and so on. He gets paid in euro, and so
that could be a motivation too.
Yeah, that is a motivation. You go to the States, right? You get paid in US dollars and so on. But there comes a point in time when because of the movement of from the top tier, right? That these people who stay back are good enough. And I want to, so for example, make the analogy between our banana industry and our labor force and our skill set force. When we were in the heyday of bananas, we never said that we will plant bananas and that we will keep the best bananas for solutions, right? Because you are competing on the outside with other banana producers.
So you have to send out the best.
You send out the best, right? But that didn't mean that the bananas that stayed back
were not good enough to be eaten.
Exactly.
Right,
exactly.
right.
So I think we in some instances we lost opportunities. I remember about maybe 30 years ago me being on a show with Tim and telling him that as far as I was concerned, because at around that time what we were trying to do was to put a computer in each school, right?
Okay.
Because that was where we were going. A computer. I said, as far as I was concerned, we would have been much better off. In those days, they used to have some programmable calculators,
right?
Texas Instruments, and every time you press it tack, and make a whole set of noise. I said at the time that if we have a classroom with 30 programmable calculators, and instead of each person getting 10 minutes on a computer, we actually had 30 students and classes and students coming into the class to do. At that time, it was programming. I knew. I didn't know the word coding. Now the word coding is used, right? If we had a factory in a sense, or ability to create people who could program calculators, then these people could be exported, because now they have a skill and they can produce rather than just be consumers. So we need to move away and help people understand the need for producers, and that is one of the reasons that I'm excited, that I like the idea.
That's where the TVET school is going.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Right. And that is a good reason for people to understand and accept the value of TVET. However, Shazi, do you think that there is a problem with people accepting the value of doing quote unquote manual labor, manual work, using your hands rather than doing accounts and other things that are academic?
Well, the society that we live in right now, people have realized that when you look around you too, Owen, you have a lot of friends that you grew up with and people that you knew, and you look around and see some of the guys who never went to university are the guys that have the bigger houses, and paid for. They don't just have the house is paid for. You know what I'm saying?
My friend,
by using their hands.
Let me just tell
the
you,
skills, the plumber, the mason, the contractor, and so on.
I tell you something.
Yeah.
When I was like around 14 or 15 years old, my grandfather sent me to M&C garage at the time,
right?
So, to do apprentice as a mechanic, right? And of course, I wasn't happy with that, and I never stayed into it. But I think that's something I regret. Shazi, I feel I would have been a lot better off had I remained a mechanic, than to become a teacher.
You should have your own garage.
It would have been a lot.
But I want to make another point too on the education revolution, and most people didn't realize the education revolution that we had. Right? When the Social Labour Party came into office in 1997, right? You remember, as a teacher, you remember that there was a shift system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some children went to school in the morning, some children went to school in the afternoon. And we still do not know the psychological impact of that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because children were left alone with parents, with friends, with neighbors, and so on. And we know a number of them were abused. That's a fact. We know that. We don't know how many, at what level, and so on, but we know some of them were abused. know what I'm saying? We've been in that kind of environment, right? Without a parental, the actual parent being there, right? Now, also, so the Labour Party built enough primary schools to stop that. Okay, so that's ended. Then also they built enough secondary schools so that every child could have gone to a secondary school. Now, I have a long history of back and forth in Martinique. My mother is Martinican, right? My entire family lives there. I was the only one, long story, but I won't go into it. I was the only one who grew up with an aunt of mine in the CDC, right? Never wanted to go and live in Martinique. Believe me, I've been war with them. I wanted to remain here. Anyway, the point I'm making, the majority of St. Lucians that you met in Martinique at that time were considered to be uneducated. And there was some truth to it because most of them came from the countryside and they went straight to work in the bananas because that's what they were unskilled, uneducated, and so on, right? So they went and worked in the banana fields and so on. They worked hard. Most of them did very well. Some of them built homes here. They built homes in Martinique, they formed families and so on. But what happened after the advent of universal education and every student from the countryside and so on started going to a secondary school? What you find now, if you go to Martinique, you will find people from Dennery, from Vieux-Fort, from Soufrière, and so on, who are educators, who are pharmacists, who are nurses, who are, you know what I'm saying? So they take on a different dimension of the workforce in Martinique because they came up to Martinique more educated. And that happened because of that educational revolution that we do not want I'll say understand and respect, or give credit to. You know what I'm saying? And look at the number of people that we had. I mean, Urban, before you would have, when people came to the PhDs and so on, it was either from convent, from college, right? At the two schools, we know people who come in with those kind of education. But now you have people with PhDs from practically every secondary school around the island, And that's I'm saying. So those same people now who their parents went to live in Martinique and so on, in the bananas, whatever, sent for the children, and the children came up very educated. So they did not go and look for work in the bananas like their parents. You know what I'm saying? So they continued their education, right? Because the opportunities were there, because there's a university in Martinique. I know a young lady who writes books from Vieux-Fort. She has written quite a few books in French. You know what I'm saying? So, I did 3 books. She had written, novels and so on. And I'll just give an example that the credit that they do not want to give. And another one also is that we could never quantify. Right?
But hold that point, Charlie, because I think that we have enough to talk about.
Right.
That I will invite you perhaps towards the end of February.
No problem.
So that we could come back and talk again because we've gone past our time. Actually.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know. And it was all good because there are a couple of things that I want to say further to what the points you raised, but time has crept up upon us, and so we need to thank Hyper D for allowing us the extra time, and thank him for taking care of us. And thank you again, Shazi.
Of course.
I mean, for coming in and talking.
Always
with me.
welcome.
Yeah. So, so that has been, we've been in the lunchroom for today, and thank you again for listening to us. And come back tomorrow because tomorrow we have an exciting topic to talk about, modern topic to talk about, and we will spend some time on that.